10th guy to try this, right? It never works out for the dipshit in the mask.
Maybe. But there's never been one like me, Gale.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2023 horror sequel, Scream 6. The film is directed by Matt Bellintinelli, Olpin and Tyler Gillett, and it stars Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega and Courtney Cox. Now this is of course the sixth film in the Scream franchise after the success of the return of Scream last year in Scream 2022. They decided pretty much to continue rolling on and essentially making Scream 6 pretty much straight away, it would look like. And this time round, the heroines from the last film, Sam and Tara, sisters, this time are now living in New York. It's a year later, trying to get on with her life. Tara's at college sort of thing. Sam is being a little bit overprotective, to say the least. And Tara just really wants to move on with her life. And then the killings start again. And obviously they target both Tara and Sam. And it is up to them and the group of friends who survived the attacks a year previously to try and prevent dying from Ghostface and discovering the mystery behind the mask, or masks. Right. What are my thoughts on Scream 6? Well, unusually, I suppose. I mean, I did review the original Scream a few weeks ago on the channel now, and I said on that review that I was going to review all the Scream films leading up to Scream 6 that's coming out of the cinema. Now, life being life, I never got a chance to immediately kind of watch them all. The only one I've watched and filmed is I've filmed a review for Scream 2, I just haven't put it up yet. And I have watched all the others because I'd seen Scream 1, Scream 2 and Scream 3. But I'd never seen Scream 4 and I didn't see Scream last year. So I thought I'd catch up with this franchise, which I've done. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the reviews up in reverse order now. I'm going to start with this one because it's the newest one. And then I'll do Scream 2022, then Scream 4, then Scream 3 and Scream 2. It'll just look a bit odd when Scream 2 goes up because that's actually the first one I filmed after Scream 1, if any of that makes sense. Anyway, what are my thoughts on this one, Scream 6? It's a Scream film. Is it any good? It's alright, actually. It's actually... I think fans of the Scream franchise will be happy. There are issues with this film. If you really want to pull at some threads, you could kind of, tear it a new one, really, I suppose. The fact that it's set in New York City, there'll be CCTV everywhere, you know what I mean? It's one of the most crowded cities in the world, and you've got Ghostface running around stabbing people on subways and all this kind of stuff. Some of it does feel like it kind of, stretches the believability factor quite a bit. And, with the fact that we have to believe that Hayden Panettiere, who was in Scream 4, is now an FBI agent. I mean, I just didn't buy it at all. I understand because Neve Campbell didn't want to come back. She did want to come back. There was a pay dispute, and they wouldn't pay her what she was asking. So she's not in this one, in case you didn't know, but I suspect most of you do. So I understand maybe the thought process of bringing a character back from a previous film. But really, this one? Kirby? I don't really think she offered a great deal to the film, and it seemed like a bit of an odd angle turning her into an FBI agent. It just wasn't believable to me. And at this point, one thing I've noticed, if you like, because I have watched now all the Scream films in fairly quick succession. In fact, I've watched Scream 4, 5 and 6 pretty much back to back in the space of a few days. And I've watched all the Scream films, like I say, in the space of a few weeks, you could argue. And one thing is very clear, there's a very specific formula, isn't there? And I suppose it's not necessarily a good idea to kind of binge watch the whole series because they all kind of blend into one. That's, and that's my fault, not the film's fault, because I kind of binge watched them. But for this, it doesn't stray too far outside the blueprint that you're used to when you watch Scream films. It just kind of tries to mix it up a bit. I thought it was a strong opening to the film, not going to lie. I thought it was a pretty decent opening to the film. I thought it was going down a really unusual route where it was revealing the killer very early, but it didn't turn out that way. And then being set in New York kind of gave it this different feel and look to the film. It didn't feel as kind of claustrophobic as previous films. Ghostface felt a little bit more menacing, even if for me anyway the reveal at the end was disappointing. To be honest, the most of the reveals of who the killer or killers are in the films is a pretty much a letdown for me. They never really live up to who you think is behind that mask. And it always bothers me the fact that throughout the film, the ghost-faced or ghost-faced, people that are wearing the mask, get the living hell kicked out of them quite a lot. They get things whacked over the head, they get arms trapped indoors. And the people who are Ghostface never have a bruise on them. You know what I mean? There's never... And for me now, that's getting to be a bit of a problem. You know what I mean? I understand they have to keep the mystery going, but they could use that as, as red herrings and stuff. I know they have addressed it a couple of times in some of the movies, but not really deep dived into it. So, yeah, it is quite silly at times, this one. But that shouldn't really surprise you, or any of them not, I suppose. The script isn't really what you would call brilliant or anything. There are moments in the film, where Ghostface is attacking and the opportunity is there for a character to call the police. And you're in New York, for goodness sake, as well. And they don't, there's moments in this film where they would either be put in protective custody or they'd have police escorts and all that kind of stuff. And again, I know they've addressed that in other films, but not really in this one. So it is seriously retreading what you have seen before in the other Scream films, this one. But fans of Scream franchise will probably want that. It's just set in a new location. And there are some great sequences. There's a great sequence on a subway. I do think that works really well. There's a great sequence in like a grocery store where you would think running in and, mixing with people, you would be safe, running away from Ghostface, but not a bit of it in this film. And there's another sequence, quite a tension-filled sequence, where they're trying to cross a ladder on a ledge to get away from Ghostface that I thought was quite good. So there are definitely moments in this film, and in keeping with the last film, certainly the last two films, maybe Scream 4 as well, but certainly the last two films, the kills have been brutal and quite graphic. They've really upped the ante in that aspect, I think, the Scream films, for modern audiences. So in that sense, I was certainly entertained by this, if not blown away by it. I think that is fair to say. So thanks for joining me for this review, guys. I will put up my review for Scream 2022 in the coming days, or maybe in the next week or so, and then I'll work my way down to Scream 2. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.